Kind of reminds me of a project I did years ago. This is, oh man, so probably 7, 8 years ago. It's before I actually took over and became the director for the previous company that I worked for. And it was a large, super large, like one of the top 10 law firms in the world. Have locations all over the United States, all over the world, and they just invested a whole bunch of money in like millions and millions of dollars in physical security and various other controls. And the goal for us was to physically penetrate. They give us 5 locations in the States. We had to physically penetrate at least a couple of them, and then exfiltrate data after being on site. So, and when you came to these buildings in New York and DC and Atlanta, you have to come to the security desk. You can't get past that. They have secure elevators that take you to a secured floor that you have to be escorted to, and then they may own a few floors on there. And so you can't even get into the building without having a badge of some sort. So that was our task. And you would think that all these controls would be impossible to do. So step 1. So we did some recon. So this company had a law firm lists all the people that work for them, every single person. Even interns and brand new lawyers and so on, even the secretaries listed. And so I went and did a bunch of recon, and I got some targets that I wanted to, to make victims, if you will. And so I sent them an email spoofing to be, and maybe I shouldn't say that, but anyway, so it was somebody else. So I spoofed an email saying, we're going to be coming on site and we're going to be doing an audit, and I want you to install this little piece of software, and it'll allow us to have visibility into your machine, make sure it's compliant, blah, blah, blah. And so of the, I think it was like maybe 25 or 30 people, half a dozen of them clicked on it, installed it on their machine, and I had a little listener, so it would actually do a reverse shell on port 4444, or 4444, and come back to my machine. And so I just sat there, I sent out an email blast, and I sat there and just boom, 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 shell access to each one of these machines. And from there, I started looking around. Because I wasn't going to exfiltrate data at that point, because that would be cheating. The goal was to get on site, but I'm doing recon at this point. And so, so I noticed something interesting, is that their username, when I went into their actual profile, the username was not first initial, last name. It was some kind of string of numbers and characters. I figure it was maybe an employee number or something like that. So I got that, and I selected a target. It was a new lawyer, and we'll just call him Brian. And Brian worked in New York, and I was going to attack in Atlanta. So I called New York and I said, can you transfer me down to Atlanta? So they transferred me down to Atlanta, so the call display in Atlanta would look like it was coming from New York, where Brian worked. And I said, listen, I'm coming down to Atlanta tomorrow, and I have a client that's going to meet me at 2:30. I need to reserve a conference room, blah, blah, blah. And so they just set up a conference room, and we were good to go. So the next day, had fake ID for myself, and I was the client, and I called the office and said, listen, my plane landed late. I'm going to be about 30 minutes late. My client's going to be there. Can you please just make sure to take care of him, set him up in the conference room, and make sure he's taken care of? So then I show up as the client, a little bit pissy because my lawyer's not there at $400 an hour. Come on. So they oblige me and they take me back. I check in at the security escorts me to the secure floor. They take me back to a conference room, and they allow me to sit down. They bring this butler-looking guy kind of walks in with this tray of coffee and sodas and snacks, and all. They were just treating me like royalty. And so after he left, I went to where the TV was. I opened up the cabinet underneath. There was a hub in there, or a switch or whatever, plugged into that. And then I called the front desk and said, what's the IT number? And they gave me the IT number. I called the IT number, and now I'm Brian again. And I said, yeah, I forgot my password. I just came down to Atlanta. I'm doing a presentation. I can't log into my email. I can't download my presentation. I made a big stink, and the guy in the help desk said, what's your user account? Which would have been a game stopper had I not done reconnaissance. But I had that information. I gave that to him. They changed the password. I logged into his account, mapped all of his drives. Whatever he had permissions to do, I did, downloaded a bunch of stuff, and then I left the building. And I decided that rather than go back up and pass the receptionist again, I would just sneak out and go out the fire escape and maybe go down a floor where it wasn't secure and take the elevator from there. So I put my camel fur jacket and my 30-pound bag on, and I hop out at the 42nd floor. It set off an alarm, by the way, and didn't realize that you can't get in any of those doors, so you're done. So I had to go all the way down 44 or 42 floors, and if you ever walked down, you think it would be easy to go down. It's actually really hard. My calves were shaking. I couldn't walk for a week afterwards. But anyway, I get out, and the security people are there waiting for me because I set off an alarm, and I had my story straight, told them what happened, and they let me go. That's how easy it is. And so they could have done some things at any one of these levels. They could have verified who I was when I was reserving a conference room. They could have, I had ID, but they could have checked my ID. They could have, done a number of other things as far as when I called to change my password, verify who I was. They thought that, security through obscurity, the fact that there's no way I would know that user account was that string. Well, that was easy to find out. So these are the kinds of things that you need to think about.